The following has been brought to you by SJP World Media.
You're listening to In the Corner with Benny Mac. Unfiltered, uncensored, and unforgiving. Here's the man in the corner, Benny Mac.
Ladies and gents, welcome to SJP World Media. This is, of course, In the Corner. Hope you're having a good day, good evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Smackdown, obviously, was this Friday. Some good stuff on there, actually, to be fair. Some stories being progressed. Some new ones. Looks like they're coming out and pushing a few others. You can follow the show at InTheCornerWWE on Twitter. And obviously you can find all the shows here on SJP World Media. Find SJP World Media on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and where most other podcasts are available. I want to thank everybody for the feedback and the positive feedback as well. The shows we've had Tyler on the last couple. We did some Extreme Rules, obviously. We did the review after. I really appreciate people listening. I really do. To be honest, in a weird way, I always try and do shows how I would like them to be and how I'd like to, if, as a fan, listening to others talking about wrestling. And Tyler, literally that first show, I literally had him on and I'd spoke to him for maybe 10, 15 minutes before we recorded. We had passed messages, backwards and forwards leading up to it, but we hadn't actually spoke until that night. So it was really cool. Just somebody to really get on with. And based on what everybody has said, it's really positive feedback. And you've enjoyed the shows that he's been on. So we'll see what we can do about possibly making him more of a regular fixture on this show if he's available. I'm talking to him at the moment about that actually. So based on you guys' feedback, so I've also got some ideas of how this show is going to progress down the line. I'd really like to do it live and fit a phone line in somewhere here so people could call in. So we'll be live on certain days, but it's just trying to find that balance of being able to commit to a day at least to be live. Maybe I do one a week where I'm live and another one where I'm not live. Maybe that would be better, possibly, rather than trying to do both shows live. Maybe, I don't know. Any ideas on this, ladies and gents? Thank you. At InTheCornerWWE on Twitter. Send any ideas to SJP World Media as well. You can pass on to me as well. I've got plenty of ideas. It's just how to execute them and also how to make sure it's consistent. At least with recording episodes like I am at the moment, I can kind of do them when I have a spare half hour, an hour, 2 hours in some cases, what me and Tyler did. And it was such good fun having him on, so we'll see. Got a few things planned coming up. Obviously Survivor Series, obviously Crown Jewel's next, but Survivor Series is coming. We're on about maybe doing like a, reviewing an old episode of a Survivor Series, basically. Hence why, because Survivor Series is coming up, it makes sense, doesn't it, I suppose. So if you do have any, we've got a couple in mind, but we'll put a poll up maybe. But any Survivor Series pay-per-views that you remember or moments, let us know them at InTheCornerWWE on Twitter. I know I've pushed it 3 times already, which I don't normally do, but it's good to have this feedback, and I love having the questions and stuff, which, to be fair, doing this show, I think people are starting to listen more regularly as well, and I'm seeing the numbers that Size told me about, and, it's a good start. And I don't know how many episodes we're in now, 22, 23 episodes, something like that. I didn't look. I normally look to see how many episodes I've actually done before I come on and hit the record button and stuff, but a bit of a rush today. It's one of those weekends where it's just kind of got away with me, and I'm recording a bit later than I actually wanted to. So in terms of In the Corner episodes, talking about SmackDown and wrestling in general, or WWE at least, this is episode 22, which, to be fair, that's insane in itself for me. And the reason I do the show mainly solo. And it's no disrespect to anybody, but we all have lives. If I try and plan somebody to come on and they can't make it on, then if I've advertised it especially and planned a show around having that other person, sometimes I find it harder to do that. I love chatting to somebody else about wrestling, so we're going to probably do more guests, people coming on to do reviews of the pay-per-views and stuff and the premium show. Whenever something comes up that I feel that needs to be addressed and have some feedback, we'll get them in and stuff like that. So, but yeah, enough of me waffling on about what I might be able to do with the show. Like I said, any ideas at InTheCornerWWE. What I was going to say was any Survivor Series pay-per-views that you really liked, chuck me a message on at InTheCornerWWE. And let me know why you liked it, and is it a go-to for you in Survivor Series? I've got a go-to Royal Rumble match all the time. Don't necessarily watch the whole pay-per-view, but I watch the Rumble itself. So one of my favourites to this day is Royal Rumble 2001, and I think there's a lot of people out there who listen to this show who probably feel the same to a degree. So, but yeah. Let me know if you know. I'm trying to think of Survivor Series. Moments. Yeah, there's been some great moments in Survivor Series history. Obviously, for myself personally, I know the invasion angle gets a lot of stick for obvious reasons, but I enjoyed it, to be honest. At the time, I was only like a year in myself, so I knew who most of these other people were. Yes, it would have been cool to see Sting versus Undertaker back in that era, but unfortunately, it didn't happen, which is a shame. But some of these guys had contracts, which I think I spoke to Tyler about. But we have contracts where they got to stay home for a couple of years and rest their bodies and earn some money and spend some time with their families, or even start a family. So why wouldn't you do that? To a degree, yes, it would have been cool to see certain matches. Of course, it would, but sometimes it just doesn't pay out the way you want it to. Anyway, let me know some of your favourite in Survivor Series moments, or even pay-per-views themselves, and why. That'd be brilliant to hear. We'll try and put a tweet out at some point for it as well. But we're hoping to pick one out and talk about it. We've got a few suggestions already, but I might put a poll up. And we'll do it chain wrestling style, and get you guys to pick which one we should talk about. Maybe no, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll do a poll. Give me some suggestions, and we'll do that. So anyway, for those who have just tuned in, he says, people who have to press play on a podcast, why would you start it at 7 minutes 59 seconds, or 8 minutes 2 seconds now? 3, 4, 5. Anyway. I was going to share something about the show, but I'll share it now. I'll share it on Monday. Tuesday, sorry. Wednesday. I've changed my time. So, sorry, this show comes out on a Wednesday and a Sunday now, apart from when premium events are happening, because we want to be able to talk about the show on a Sunday or a Monday. The schedule changes slightly when there's a premium event on, but generally Wednesday and Sunday these shows come out. Sometimes we do special ones if we have time. We've got one I really want to do, but it's just having the time and getting everybody together. Which I've already spoke to a few people about doing, and hopefully we can get that done soon. Well, I would like to make that maybe an annual thing, if we can, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm waffling today, and I apologise. I've literally rushed home and set everything up, and then text messages here and there and stuff. But yeah, life. Anyway, Smackdown started off this week, so it was on October 14th, and the show started off pretty hectic, to be fair. Normally you're going to go, yeah, there's fighting or whatever. But this was a car accident that happened in the parking lot, and involving Karrion Kross and another vehicle, and Scarlett was there as well. Karrion looked like he had the worst end of it, and out of nowhere, Drew McIntyre came out and attacked Karrion Kross, and so I'm basically screaming at him, "This isn't over." So we did speculate on the Extreme Rules review show that this wasn't over, this rivalry, and it looks like very much that it's not. So Drew McIntyre, obviously 2 losses at pretty big events, to be fair, Clash of the Castle and now Extreme Rules. There's even talk about maybe Drew goes heel at some point. But I don't necessarily see that right now. But anything's possible in WWE, as they say. But yeah, So there was a car accident with, by the looks of it, it was Karrion Kross in the car. You don't see it; it's already happened when SmackDown comes on the air. Drew McIntyre comes out of nowhere, attacks him, and has to be restrained, and says this isn't over. Now, Karrion Kross is actually billed to be in a fatal 4-way at the evening for the main event of SmackDown to crown a new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. And this match is, I say they build it after, actually, because it's a bit weird, because we had Sami Zayn versus, who was he against again? I've forgotten. Sami Zayn versus Kofi Kingston. We get a phone call with Sami before he comes out from Roman telling Jay essentially make sure Sami wins. It didn't go well on Monday. Sami lost on Monday. And basically this time, Sami did pick up a much needed win. Quite a good match between Kofi and Sami. We're both two guys I think could put on a great match at any time. You know, you could almost guarantee that these two would put on a good match, and it was a good match. But Jey Uso made his presence known. He super kicked Xavier Woods. It distracted Kofi. Blue Thunder Bomb was hit, got a 2 count, and then basically there was a roll up by Kingston, and then had Zayn's shoulders were down, but Jey managed to get in the ring and kick Kofi in the face, and the referee didn't see it. He was slid under the ropes, and basically, as I've already said, Sami Zayn picked up the victory. But one of the main stories from this SmackDown is that Rey Mysterio came to speak to Triple H. We saw Triple H on the show again. It's good to see him on TV again. I'm glad that he's not fully all over the schedule, but it is nice to see him on TV. But Rey Mysterio has come to SmackDown to chat to Triple H, and basically the short version is, ladies and gents, is that Rey Mysterio was going to quit WWE. And Triple H says, let's go into my office and let's talk about it. And we don't see Rey again for the rest of the evening as it goes on. I'm going to run through, as I said, the main event I will get into in a moment. There's also obviously 2 things I want to get into mainly on this show, and that's the Bray Wyatt and the main event of SmackDown this week. That's not taking anything away from the rest of SmackDown. Overall, the show, again, I say this every week, ladies and gents, so get that shot glass ready. Raw is too long. The only thing I have a gripe about is DDTs, which we've already spoke about on a previous show with Tyler. But Raw's too long. And me and Tyler have laid it out already, and we've said, but basically, even when it's good, 3 hours is too long. Yes, a pay-per-view, a special show, fine. Every week, it becomes a bit of a marathon, doesn't it? So, and bearing in mind, I only watch Raw and SmackDown. I don't even watch NXT anymore at the moment. But imagine watching Raw, NXT, and then SmackDown, and that's just WWE. You chuck in, if you're an AEW fan, you chuck in AEW in there as well, and any other, Ring of, New Japan or anything like that. That's a lot of wrestling, And as much as we love wrestling as fans, you can have too much of a good thing. And I'm sure we've covered that enough, so I'm sure some of you are probably sick of me saying that by now, but that's general gist. I want to make note quickly of Braun Strowman had a match against a bit like Omos on Raw. He's basically having enhancement matches at the moment. And Braun Strowman took on James Maverick and Brian Thomas. He beat them. You're not expecting them to beat Braun Strowman anyway. I know it was 2 against 1. I was surprised by this move. I could see this down the line, but I'm surprised they've done it so quickly for me because they're only building Omos up on Raw again after his losses, and then Braun's not long been back in WWE, but they have Omos come to SmackDown, and MVP, the microphone actually cut out, but basically mocking the fact that Braun Strowman calls himself the monster among monsters, and so they're looking like they're setting up an Omos Braun thing, but I think this is personally, I think this is way too soon. I feel as though Omos should just be kept away from Braun at the moment, build him up, and no disrespect from the local competitors, but we haven't seen Omos really beat anybody of note in WWE, and Braun's only been back maybe, a month, so I'd like to have seen these two kept separate for now, because that is a moment in the Rumble itself, just having those two, the big guys. Do you know what? For once, I'd like to see a swerve here. If they're gonna insist on pursuing the Braun Omos storyline, I would rather see them join forces with MVP, maybe talking some sense into Braun, and have these two together. Because it'd be something different. Yeah, we have seen it in the past. I'm not disputing this. I'm not saying it's breaking, wrestling history books or anything. But they're going to put these two together. And Omos hasn't been built enough for me to be... I'm not saying he's not... when you see him come to the ring, he's a big guy. Same with Braun. Stuff's going down. But they don't have that aura around them like you would back in the day, maybe with a Big Show, a Kane, and Undertaker, come into the ring. You go, when you see certain people will come down once they've been built enough, you go, here we go. We're going to see some real good shit here. This is, for me, you know me, I know it's unfiltered, uncut, and I could be a lot more harsh than I probably am, to be fair. I don't like this at the moment because I don't feel as though Omos especially has not been built enough. He's been beating local talent. I'll leave it that way. And that's no disrespect to the local talent, but we haven't seen Omos really destroy anybody, take anybody on. I'm not saying he has to win the title, but we haven't seen enough of Omos in the ring in a sense of, and even Braun to a degree. We know what Braun's capable. He's got history with the company, obviously. Omos is, he was AJ Styles' bodyguard. He was a bit of a challenge for Bobby Lashley, but ultimately Bobby Lashley came up trumps on that. So I like to see Omos be created into more of a, I've already said it. We need to see him against some other talent that is a bit more established to maybe have him go over to start making him more of a serious threat for me. This is me talking, obviously, my perspective. Again, anything I talk about, I want to hear, if you think about this Omos Braun thing. But this is one thing this week that I am not a fan of at the moment. I believe it's too soon, I'm a guy with a microphone. What do I know? No. But yeah, that's my take on it. I think that this is way too soon, and Omos needs to be built a bit more, and even Braun could be, rebuild to a degree. So this is too soon, unless we go the way of Braun and Omos team up. That I would be interested in seeing, because then you've got a legitimate team. Yes, they aren't. I mean, Braun's quick; he's a big guy. Omos is more of the slower of the two, I would say, but that could work. And an intimidating team, especially if they start going over the tag teams and destroying them, have moments like, when Brock was Universal Champion a few years ago, it looked like like a Finn Balor or somebody was going to beat them, and then obviously they didn't. But I would rather see these two as a team than opponents at the moment. So yeah, we'll move on before I get. I haven't done this for a while. I can't do it because it's not plugged in. I'm charging it. It was going to be the shoosh. And there we go. LA Knight is officially back to LA Knight, which we already spoke about. He had a bit of a brief match this week, and he defeated him. Mansoor defeated him very quickly. I didn't expect anything less, to be totally honest, but what I did like after the match, he did cut a promo, and although he got a good pop going into the match and people cheering the fact that he is LA Knight now, again, finally, it was basically more, he cut the promo that basically was letting us know that actually I didn't do it for you, I did it for me. So for me, he's cut a heel promo. So actually, although it looked like he was possibly going to be a baby face, I think actually going the heel route is actually a better move for LA Knight. He's got that look about him, and talking to some mates about him, because I'm not overly familiar with everything that he's done. His promos back in was it TNA? I think they said were really good. So we're starting to build. I said it on the other show, but I feel like we're seeing a lot of foundations being laid here within the company of WWE at the moment. So it's good. There's a Pick Your Poison match this week on NXT, so that's filtered into the main roster. Roxanne Perez has come to SmackDown. She ends up teaming with Shotzi and Rodriguez against Damage Control. Damage Control get a much needed win. To be honest, I know Io Sky, and Dakota Kai haven't necessarily lost matches much, but Bayley's obviously got 2 on the bounce, not winning the Women's Championship and then losing on Raw. in order to keep this group somewhat not relevant, that's the wrong word, but to keep their momentum going, I feel like this win was needed. A 6-man tag wasn't the worst one ever, but Bayley hit the Bayley to belly. Can only get a 2 count at one point. A good back and forth between Perez and Bayley. Ended up with Bayley securing a pinfall with the win. So Bayley got the actual pin as well. So that's actually her first win since Extreme Rules. And that's it. I mean, and that's it really. There's not much more to say about it. Interesting to see where Bayley goes from here after not capturing the Raw Women's Championship. Another thing I want to say is I feel like soon we need Triple H to come out. Whether he names GMs for each show, I don't know. Obviously, the way it's gone, Bray Wyatt's allegedly on SmackDown, even though we've seen glimpses of him on Raw. And it's the same with Braun Strowman. He's supposed to be on SmackDown, but we're seeing him on Raw. I think soon we need to have... I'd love to see that old draft they used to do where they used to have matches and then the screen with the logo and everything. And then somebody be drafted. But I feel like the show... the Bloodline to a degree. The Bloodline are probably the only ones viable for my liking because they're both Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Roman's got both heavyweight championships. So, you might have a Raw superstar come and challenge Roman or a team to come and challenge the Usos on SmackDown or Raw or vice versa. That's, to me, in my head, that makes sense. But I feel like soon we need to have these brands literally aligned down the middle. This is SmackDown, this is Raw, especially with War Games coming up. On the previous show, I also said about some things I thought that might happen in terms of War Games. Tune into that one if you haven't heard it already. And there's some other stuff going on SmackDown. Legado del Fantasma defeat Hit Row. Hit Row, I'm struggling with. I'm not going to lie. I see the appeal, but personally, I haven't seen. There's potential there. I'm actually interested in Legado del Fantasma because I think they look really good, and they got Zelina Vega with them. That probably is why. That's probably the main reason why. But Del Fantasma win. There is some cheating going on, which is what I like, weirdly, in terms of making them a heel group. We are still seeing these guys being built. Hit Row, I don't know what Hit Row can do for me to make me go, I like though. It wasn't... The match was okay. The segment was okay, but Hit Row, I just haven't quite... I haven't warmed up to them yet. I would like to know what you think about Hit Row, ladies and gents, at InTheCornerWWE on Twitter, because I'm struggling. Am I missing something? Let me know. But at the moment, I'm not jumping out my... When you see certain people come out, you jump, oh yeah, cool, I want to see this match. I'm not interested at the moment. And maybe it's because I don't know what they're about, really. I mean, we've seen snippets of them, but I can't quite place what it is for me. About them. I can't really say much more because I don't know what to say about them. They don't interest me at the moment, and that's the problem. But Del Fantasma, I'm liking the look of them. I'm liking the teamwork and stuff we've seen so far. I watched The Bump this week, funnily enough, which has nothing to do with SmackDown, but the Los Lotharios were on there, and actually I think they're quite a good team as well, and I'm interested to see where they go going forward. And then before we get to the Bray Wyatt segment of the show, the main event was meant to be Sheamus, Ricochet, Solo Sikoa, and Cross. They announced that Cross couldn't participate because of what happened at the start of the show, the car accident, and the fact that Drew McIntyre laid him out. So we have Solo Sikoa, Ricochet, and Sheamus in the ring. But I'm thinking, it's going to be a triple threat then. No, here is your fourth competitor. Rey Mysterio's music hits, and this leads me back to what I just said about the brands need to be separate. They need to be separated. That if they're brands and they're on, you're a Raw guy and you're a SmackDown girl, or vice versa, or whatever. If you're Raw or SmackDown, you need to stay on the relevant shows. Champions in terms of the tag team and Roman, because obviously they have both bouts for both shows. We need to start. So I would like, the people are talking about maybe splitting the main bout, which I think needs to happen, or at least introduce maybe bring back the World Heavyweight Championship. I would always champion that. I love that big gold bout. Bring it back, please. But Rey Mysterio comes out, and Rey Mysterio's been entered into the Fatal 4-Way, which is great. But I'm watching this match, and I'm going, and I'm not going to lie, I thought Solo Sikoa was going to win this match, and this was a really good Fatal 4-Way match, to be honest. A good main event to end SmackDown on. This again leads into what I said earlier about Raw being too long. SmackDown's just long enough that I was actually excited. When I saw Rey's music, I was, hey, Rey! You know, Rey's a big fixture from SmackDown back in 2000, 2003. Was one of those guys that helped make that show the wrestling show back in the day. So it was so cool. And this is also a good way of keeping Rey away from Dom for now. Because I feel like the Dom-Rey saga can be told over the next 3 to 4 months, probably even longer if they do it right. So this is a good way of separating Rey away from the Judgment Day for now. So Rey can kind of, because he doesn't want to compete anymore, he won't fight his son, and it's just, from a fan's point of view, when, as I've already said on the Extreme Rules show, the best story that night, I believe, was the Judgment Day and the Edge, and then Dominic and Rey. The way they ended that I Quit match was fantastic. Leads it into Beth versus Rhea. Could the Judgment Day be taking on the new Gallows and Anderson are back with AJ? And maybe like Edge in there somewhere, or some sort of combination of somebody. Maybe there's another member of Judgment Day we don't know about yet. I don't know. But the thing is, the way they've done it, the heat that was generated at Extreme Rules was really good, and I can't wait to see more of this. Dominic, Rhea, Beth. There's so many storylines within that group alone that can be really good going forward, and I hope it is, and they don't. And I don't think they will, because we're seeing a lot of stories play out longer, and I like that, because you want to see more. I feel as though the Riddle-Seth Rollins saga is over, but with Seth winning the United States Championship on Raw this past Monday, apparently, if I read that right, Seth is going to be taking on Riddle for the United States Championship, so we're going to be revisiting it, but this time with a title on the line. So I don't know what's going to happen there. It's going to be interesting. We got potential Brock and Lashley, happening as well. So we'll talk about that on the Wednesday show. This Fatal 4-Way was freaking brilliant. It was a really good match. I just realised I haven't mentioned, we did see Liv Morgan basically lose her shit backstage and beat up Sonya Deville. After Sonya Deville made some comments, she put her through a table. The attire that Liv was wearing, very similar to what she normally wears, but all black. So that indicates to me that I said it before, I feel as though if she was going to keep the championship at Extreme Rules, she should turn heel. I think maybe we are going to see that. It looks like we're going to see that. There's also talk about Wyatt 6, which I'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. The Rey Mysterio match. So we got, as I said, Ricochet, Sheamus, Solo Sikoa, and Rey Mysterio in a Fatal 4-Way match to earn a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. And also, like I said, Rey Mysterio officially on SmackDown. Again, how much that means at the moment is another thing. There's a couple of things I want to mention here before I say who the winner is. But the match goes on. It's a really good match. During the contest, it was announced, as I've already said, that Rey Mysterio has joined SmackDown. Sheamus and Sikoa go at it, which was really good. Weirdly, Sheamus and Rey Mysterio have never faced each other one-on-one. They've teamed together, but they never fought each other. I wasn't aware of that. That's actually quite cool. There's a match there in itself. Solo Sikoa, obviously, has never faced Rey. I don't know whether Ricochet has, but Ricochet and Rey had a really good moment in this match. They were doing, when the ring was clear with the other two, those two we got to see a little snippet of what it could be like with Rey Mysterio versus Ricochet. And I tell you what, if you haven't seen this match, just to see Ricochet versus Rey Mysterio alone is worth going back and watching, ladies and gents. It was really good. I really enjoyed that. At one point, it looked like Sheamus was going to win. He had the cloverleaf on Sikoa, but then Sami Zayn and Jey Uso came out, and the Bloodline teammates. But what I like about this is they were thwarted by the Brawling Brutes. This led to all out mayhem, basically. It went mental. Now, I said on the Extreme Rules show that maybe Imperium versus the Bloodline, maybe this could be the start of... This will keep... I'm going to say now, Rey Mysterio is the new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther versus Rey Mysterio. This could be absolutely amazing, or it could be an absolute car wreck for Rey Mysterio. I don't know. But we know Rey Mysterio can win big matches. We know he can take on the big guys. So this is a good opportunity, I think, for Walter to show what more he can do with somebody like a Rey Mysterio. But this also led, like I said, the Brutes and part of the Bloodline going at it. So it ended up coming down to Ricochet Mysterio, because Sheamus went out with the Brutes to take on the Sammy, Jay, and Sikoa. So we've got the Brawling Brutes and the Bloodline. I think this is the start of it, ladies and gents. We're going to see Bloodline versus the possibly Brutes versus the Bloodline. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. Ricochet, Mysterio, like I said, they were doing something, to be honest with you. Rey Mysterio managed to capitalize anyway, get a good reversal, then hit the 619, winning the match, and basically going on to face Walter. I keep saying Walter, Gunther, you know what I mean. For the Intercontinental Championship. I hope that's not going to happen at Crown Jewel. I actually want that to happen at Survivor Series. Obviously, I said this is a good way of keeping Rey and Dominic apart. Obviously, premium shows, you will have other members there. And this is why I want them to actually acknowledge the fact that, right, you guys need to stop turning up on SmackDown and Raw. And actually separate them. Obviously, they're using stars at the moment to maybe fill certain areas. I don't know. But the way they talk is that, oh, yeah, he's on SmackDown. She's on Raw. She's on SmackDown. He's on Raw. So I kind of want that quelled so we can go, yes, you are Raw and you are SmackDown. I've already whinged about that enough this episode, to be honest, so we'll move on. Bray Wyatt spoke for the first time since his return to WWE. Don't know about you. I love that that whole entrance at Extreme Rules. We got sort of like played right to the end of that pay-per-view. I think I've already said it. I stayed up late, and that's one of the first. I said 2019 Royal Rumble. It's actually the 2020 Royal Rumble when Drew McIntyre won. I get those confused, but that was the last time that I stayed up for one. So this is the first time I've stayed up once since 2020. And I tell you what, doing this show and watching WWE at the moment, is it all amazing and perfect? No, but it's a damn sight better than what it has been. And as I said, if you have the patience, there's a lot of foundations being laid here for future matches, future rivalries, and even callbacks at Rumbles, Mania. Like I said, I quite like the fact me and Tyler spoke about it on the review show of Extreme Rules, but this is a good way of keeping Sheamus away from Gunther for a while, and maybe we can revisit this down the line. But maybe with the Brawling Brutes, going having that bit of a brawl with the Bloodline, this could be an opportunity for maybe the Tag Team Championships, for maybe Butch, Ridge, the Fridge, as they say, possibly taking it off the Bloodline. I see. You could argue that they're SmackDown guys, so they can only go for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. But I don't know. Like I said, they need to separate these shows, or they need or are we going to bring them all together again? So Raw and SmackDown are just the shows like they used to be back in the early 2000s. Who knows? Anyway, that's not what I was talking about, was it? Cheers, please. There we go. Bray Wyatt spoke for the first time, as I said. This was actually quite emotional, to be honest. It wasn't quite what I was expecting in terms of what Bray Wyatt was going to do. I did see some negative comments towards this about, I can't believe I've got Bray Wyatt on there and he's tearing up. It was really good. I'm sorry, but I enjoyed this in a sense of they did it enough that he's basically saying that, I lost my job. I've lost some people that were very, very, very important to me. I lost my confidence. I lost my job, etc. And this isn't, so-and-so talking. This is me talking. I mean, so one of the lines was, "I'm incredibly grateful and very nervous because I never thought this would happen. This is just me being me, genuine me for the first time." I've already said it, but he said, "I lost my career, I lost my confidence, I lost two people who were very, very close to me. I lost my way. You saved my life," Wyatt told the audience. He told him that he's had fans asking when he's coming back and stuff like that. And somebody put, "Oh, I can't believe you've ruined the Bray Wyatt character already." But it did, as he was doing this promo, the cryptic Max Headroom figure appeared and warned that they don't know who they're dealing with, but they will. Now, I don't know whether this person in the mask is Bray still, or whether this is somebody else. I have no idea. A good theory that I read earlier was actually the Wyatt 6. A lot of people have been talking about Wyatt 6, right? So, all this is going to be a stable. But somebody put a good theory forward on, I think it was on Reddit, and I didn't take the name down, which I should have, so I apologise. But the Wyatt 6 is not actually different people, but actually 6 different personalities. And other than wondering how Bray would portray Abby, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with this person. He said maybe like Husky Harris, technically alive but never killed, but who knows? I don't know. And then maybe Mercy is NXT Bray, because we see the shirt that Mercy wore at Extreme Rules. That's the buzzard bird type thing, which it makes a lot of sense. Abby, main roster Wyatt family. Sister Abigail. Abby died when Orton burned down the shack, hence why she has that dead look. They were always portraying Abby as some spirit anyway, so maybe possessing Bray, which would be quite interesting, I guess. The Rambling Rabbit is Wyndham Rotunda himself, just like the rabbit was killed in the Funhouse for taking too much. Bray was fired from WWE for always standing up to Vince due to his frustrations, hence why he also has a messy look. This would mean that Bray is so obsessed and deranged that he doesn't know what's fiction and what's real life anymore. And the Fiend's the Fiend. The Fiend's another personality that comes out of Bray. And so, and the 6th member could possibly be this masked person who we saw on the screen, because he came up on the screen, said, "You don't know who you're dealing with, but you will." And then the show went off the air with the Bray Wyatt symbol that we used, the butterfly sort of symbol that he's got at the moment. And yeah, so that's essentially the 6 characters this person has put forward, which I thought was quite a good theory, to be honest. And so instead of it being a stable, we have that Mankind, Dude Love, Cactus Jack thing going on with Bray. It's very interesting, to be honest. And to me, that makes the most sense at the moment. What happens? I have no idea. All I know is I'm interested in what happens. I'm interested to know, because I have no idea. Who does Bray have his first match with? Does he have just a random match with somebody? Or is Bray... I think Bray's probably too big of a character. Maybe he needs to go after somebody on the main roster. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know whether titles matter to Bray. I always thought that with the Bray Wyatt character, it wasn't about titles. Not really. I know he was the Universal Champion. But I always thought that titles didn't matter to Bray, in a sense of he'll get it when he needs it, but that's not his goal. It never seemed like it was. So yeah, I thought that was a good theory. So instead of it being a stable, it's going to be it's the personalities of Bray, which I thought was quite interesting, to be honest with you. I thank everybody once again for listening to the show. Thank you for tuning to SJP World Media, and thank you very, very much for listening to In the Corner. I am BenNy Mac, and we will see you all again on Wednesday. Enjoy Raw. Any thoughts on this Bray stuff or anything on the wrestling, send them my way, DM me, whatever, at InTheCornerWWE on Twitter. And I will see you all again on Wednesday for some more WWE news. And hopefully we might have figured out what Bray Wyatt's doing.